Hey everyone, this is Stephen at FlowXO. It's the 2nd of November 2016, and I always like to start with a today in history. Today, the Morris worm, one of the first computer worms to gain good media coverage, was launched in 1988. It's perhaps one of the mementos which has led the UK government to promise to strike back against cyber attacks this week. I've said in webcasts for a few weeks now, this is a great time of year to be talking about bots. In a lot of cases, they're going to be used as a marketing tool in a retail context in the run up to Christmas, which is, of course, only 53 days away now. So, an official welcome to FlowXO's Getting Started webcast, where we'll get you up and running with FlowXO with an introduction to its key features and benefits, specifically in relation to its push services for marketing, its messaging service for contacting human agents in real time, and how to collect data through a conversational form. If there's anything specific you'd like to see, just get in live chat now or drop a note into our community. If you haven't been there, I'll get you a link for that later. Before we get into the webcast proper, a quick shout out to our hashtag WhatTheBot. You can follow WhatTheBot on Twitter to keep up to date with all the latest bot news. It's a great source of inspiration and will keep you up to date with how to leverage a bot in your business. We seem to have a flurry of strong commercial bots a few weeks ago, but just recently they've dried up a little. I have a couple of stories here for you, a little bit off the wall rather than mainstream, but hopefully these go to demonstrate the reach and increasing adoption of this technology. Let's take a look. So we have Casper have released InsomnoBot. Casper is a mattress startup based in New York. They just rolled out a chatbot, InsomnoBot, a friendly, easily distracted bot designed to keep you company when you just can't fall asleep. It's SMS based, and at first that sounds a little bit crazy, but it's a great marketing campaign. They even did some research into what keeps people up at night, and it responds to specific things like I've had too much coffee or I'm on a Netflix binge. They're using the technology to reach their market out of hours, which is a great use case for a bot. A bit of fun next. But another example of how bots are being used for simple marketing exercises. How could I resist including Tina the T-Rex today? It's hosted by National Geographic and picks up on simple keywords and give out facts about T-Rexes. There's no hard sell there, but it drives interaction all the same. You can see here I've asked a basic question and it's given us an answer, a fact about T-Rexes. So, perhaps the first step is just to get some presence on Messenger with a clever marketing drive, and then we'll deal with some of the downstream marketing from such a campaign later on. Just the last piece of news, it's long anticipated, but I caught it just this morning, in that Twitter have now released bot functionality, chat functionality inside their direct messages feature. So it's a service that we'll certainly look to build in FlowXO in the future. They've had a few high profile sign-ups. Airbnb, Pizza Hut are doing customer service through there at the moment, so it's worth taking a look and doing a bit of research on that if you're interested. Okay, by this point you'll have signed up for FlowXO, you'll have an account and you'll have connected your Messenger bot. Let us know if you're having any trouble with that, either right now in live chat or pass us a note in our community. A quick reminder, what's FlowXO? Well, as well as being the future of business messaging, FlowXO is a complete platform for building, hosting and managing chatbots for messaging platforms such as Messenger, Slack and Telegram. It includes a visual editor to build bots without code. Everything is driven by a set of flows which you build with certain tasks. You can create and distribute your own bots which are owned and branded by you but controlled and hosted by FlowXO. I'm running this cast live so that I can maximize your time and provide everything you need to get started right in this session. Let us solve any queries or give any guidance you need right away. There's live chat, so by all means get talking to the team and I over on the right. Down to business, let's get onto my desktop. So my example business for today is the Mortgage Store, who are the home of the Mortgage Bot. The Mortgage Store are a typical mortgage broker who are regulated to advise on customers' mortgage loans, and they have this Facebook page in place. Just a little bit more context, Mortgage Store simply want to communicate with customers better, provide a more engaging experience, divert basic queries away from the resource-intensive phone line, and ultimately write more business. If you got my email, you should have a bot in place right now, a Messenger open and ready to go, as well as Google Sheets, Gmail, and of course FlowXO. First, let's dive right in and take a look at our bot in action. I'm just going to launch him from here. So when I hit messages, I'll be taken into Messenger. I'm going to launch him here so that you can see clicking Getting Started gives us a specific trigger to welcome new first-time customers. Right away, he's tried to get us on track by giving us some option buttons. However, it's important that he can handle some basic conversation. So let's say hello. And you can see here, he wants to get right back to the point again. He gave us some basic options right away to direct to things we want him to be able to handle. But I'm more interested in how he is. I'm going to be mischievous and type in a question rather than click the option he's given. So you can see here, he's easily countered the fact that I wanted to do my own thing, and he's constantly directing us back to the bot's purpose, which is the whole point of having the bot out there. It's really easy to set up basic conversational chatter and capture all the things that are thrown at the bot. We'll look at some flows in a moment so you can see how easy it was to put this together. Before we go further, let's just take a closer look at our setup. I have FlowXO, I have Messenger, of course. I've also got Gmail, and I have Google Sheets. You can see here that my sheet has a very specific structure, and it's important that I've set this up in a correct way before I start working with any flows. So let's just take a bit of a closer look. We have 3 sheets. The first is data to push, and this is going to be our trigger sheet. So every time we put some information in this sheet, it's going to trigger our marketing messages. We just need to put the correct content under the correct headings with a cut and paste. Our second sheet will help us do that. This is my staging area where I prepare the marketing messages I'll eventually want to send. I've made it easy to cut and paste these pre-prepared messages in our future marketing sheet. You can see I have all the deals that I might want to communicate to customers here. The content is relevant to our scenario, but most important, just off screen here, is the category column, which is going to help us filter messages to make sure we only send them to relevant customers. The third sheet here, new customer, is going to be used when we collect some data through a conversational form. We'll be building that flow to populate the sheet in real time just a little later. Back at FlowXO, here we are at the dashboard, and first and foremost, just let me point out a little bit of a new feature here. There's a referral link, and if you encourage your friends to use the platform via social media, you can earn rewards in the way of extra interactions and bots or flows. So do take a look at that. You can see here I've arranged my flows into folders. It's great for managing what the bot does and tweaking functionality, or for organizing flows for different events or different customers. So let's consider the flows we have here and the flows we want to build. First, marketing. Setting up messenger marketing with FlowXO is easy. It's essential, at least in the context of our flows, that we get our Google Sheet correct in advance, which we know is the case here from our previous review. Then we need to consider the 3 flows that we'll need for the push marketing. First, we need to consider the actual dissemination of information to our customers. We need to consider how the customers receive a certain push, which is a certain offer. Then we need to configure a flow to control the timing of that push, that distribution of information, a flow that reacts to our manipulation of our master worksheet, which is down here, that contains the offers and triggers in turn the first workflow. Let's just switch this on. Finally, we need some way of customers subscribing and unsubscribing to the offers that may be of interest to them and recording their certain preferences so that they only get the offers that matter to them. To round off this bot, we'll then be considering a catch-all, so we can welcome people who are speaking to the bot for the first time on the start keyword and give some intelligent responses when the bot doesn't fully understand what it's being asked. Because the catch-all will override the help keyword, we'll also have a separate help flow to accommodate that specific keyword. Some finishing touches, then we'd like to make sure that we can contact a human agent through the bot if we need to with the powerful messaging service that FlowXO offers. We'll be doing that through InTouch. And you can see there's just one flow in this folder, which is going to be our data collection. This is going to be our form, which we're going to collect data conversationally. So we'll build that one out in real time. Before we do that, let's have a look at the flows that we've already built. So we're going to use FlowXO's push service to deliver content to users in Messenger. When I set up this trigger, I'm only required to give one thing: the name of the push. This trigger acts as a receiver of data that will send information to from another flow. So we just need to make sure that we've named this receiver something sensible. Receive offers makes sense here because that's exactly what it'll do. In the next action, we're using the attribute service. Attributes can act like a counter, how many times somebody visited, or a flag, somebody said a specific word. It's a simple key value store in the background. We're going to use it here to see if a customer is eligible to receive the manner of push we're sending each time this flow is run. They'll be eligible because they suggest a certain mortgage type when they subscribed. So here we get an attribute of a specific customer. You can see that they're uniquely identified by their own specific response path. And we're interested in the customer's mortgage product preference, which we identified as category in our spreadsheet. Of course, we've yet to ask the customer what that preference might be, but we do know that this is going to be one of our 4 options or product types: first time buyer, remortgage, buy to let, or second home. Lastly, in this flow, I can then send a card with some rich content rather than a simple message. I just need to fill in these inputs with the data that I'll eventually receive from the push. You can see that these outputs came directly from FlowXO. All I needed to do was select them from the list. When we build our own flow in a few minutes, you'll see how easy that is. Importantly, we've filtered this send a card action, and the reason for that is that obviously we only want to send information, we only want to send offers to customers that would be eligible for those offers. If they've requested first time buyer information, we only want to send them first time buyer information, and that filter will sort that out for us. So filters, just to labour the point, they're really important for controlling our workflow, our processes and flows, and you can put them on any task and define some simple logical comparisons. Just get in touch with us. They can sometimes be a little bit confusing in terms of just getting the control flow correct. Get in touch with us and we'll be happy to help you out. Make sure this flow's turned on and we can look at our second flow. So in our next flow, we're now ready to get customers subscribed to the content that we want to push out. So we're going to manage subscription. First, we need to trigger on something that's said to the bot. In this case, we're going to focus on the keyword subscribe. It's important to note that there's some fuzzy matching here. So this trigger will also function on the word unsubscribe, meaning we can neatly accommodate both cases in one flow. Next, we're going to use one of FlowXO's helper tasks to manipulate the message that the customer gave us. It's important because we need to make sure we can filter some tasks later in this flow without worrying if there are any capitalized words given. So all we do is use the text service to lowercase our message. Next, we're going to ask a question. What type of mortgage are you interested in? And you can see we've used the choice question type, and those are our 4 choices, so the 4 possible answers, the mortgage types that the customer can give. Then we're ready to revisit attributes. We're going to set an attribute this time for this particular customer, the name of the attribute being the answer to the question we just asked, which is the mortgage type the customer is interested in. Next, we need 2 push actions, one to subscribe, one to unsubscribe, which are filtered by the lowercase message that we've got from earlier in the flow. We're looking for the presence or absence of the word unsubscribe so that we know that the intent is clear. And then finally, just to finish off, we have 2 filter messages to confirm the subscription or unsubscription. Final flow of these 3 to get our marketing in place is release offers. So this is the exciting one. It's in this set of 3 flows that we now get to actually trigger a push out to the customer, and we're going to do that in this case with our Google Sheets. We're going to look for a new row in Google Sheets rather than look for a message being sent to the bot. So the next action in that flow is then to send a push to the receiver that we set up in flow 1. Let's make sure all these flows are switched on, and we'll check them out in Messenger. So I've been given a nice message back there. So now we know this person would like to get offers about first-time buyer related products. So I can go to my future marketing when the time's right. I can copy out a row from this spreadsheet. I can go over to data to push and just add a row here. Back in Flow XO, I can check the logs to make sure everything's okay. And you'll notice here that since this is not an instantaneous trigger, we just have to wait for Google Sheets to pick up the new row on the next poll. So we've just got to wait a few seconds for this to count down, and then it will recognize the new row that we've put in place. Of course, it's always helpful when we catch the trigger closer to its polling time than having to wait, but I think a minute is pretty reasonable for us to be able to enact this functionality. We're syncing now. And once we're synced, I can look at the logs, just make sure we're completed successfully. I've just had a ping over in Messenger, and you can see there's the offer being sent through to me. So I can click, and that'll take us through to our Facebook page. So those three flows are all it took to manage our marketing. Simple. You know, you can push any kind of updates this way, of course, not just offers. You could have an attribute specific to the customer and securely update them on the status of a conveyancing file. You know, where customer is always coming in asking where are we up to, and the bot will be able to remember their case and give them an answer based on a certain amount of time that's passed. Keeping the mortgage theme there, of course. Open it up, you know, tell us how you'd like to use them, and we'll be happy to help you get your own case in place. You might alternatively have several different flows, and you might use the ask a question action to ask the customer which stream they're interested in receiving, which updates they're interested in receiving, and then you just use filters and attributes, as we'd already seen, to send them the right content that they're interested in. Okay. So next we have a catch-all in place here, and the catch-all allows us to start to round this bot off. First we need to consider all the new customers who come and speak to the bot for the first time. That's when we click get started and we saw that customized message. But then as a separate case, we also need to understand how we respond when we don't understand something. So you can see here, simply by putting this catch-all in place that looks for all the messages that we don't understand, there is no additional trigger word for them. I'm then sending filtered messages based on having arrived at this flow from different places. So either getting started, from general conversation, or from that general chatter that we had in place at the beginning. So when we said hi or how are you, if we're passed into this flow directly from one of those keywords, it knows that we came from there, and it's going to say something specific to us. Just something else that's happening in this flow. We're going to use the code service here to get the first name of the user from the full name that Messenger provides to us. So you can see that I've just got a very simple bit of code here. I give it some inputs that I'm interested in, and I ask it to return the outcome of this script. Now, the code service is really powerful, and it can do, well, whatever you want it to do, really. It can make requests to other apps or services that FlowXO doesn't support. It can perform custom manipulation or calculations on data, and it can use the output in the conversation with the customer. We've used a really simple example here, but the options are limitless. If you want to interact with your CRM, your calling or dialer system, or any other web-connected device, you can do it with this service. Be sure to talk to us about how we can help you get the best out of it. Some final flows before we start building our own. We have chatter in place here, which is just looking for some nice gentle keywords. Hello, hi, how are you? These are the things we looked at right at the beginning of this webcast, where we're trying to catch the bot out, and you can see it's really easy just to program in new words. So if you realize that you need another word in here that it should trigger on, then you can just put it into the list, and if somebody comes along and says I'm testing you, it'll now trigger based on that fuzzy match. And all I need to do downstream, then again we use the code just to parse out the first name, but we're responding specifically now to different words that are said to us in that trigger. The important point is that there's some interoperability here, and these flows, these responses might drive us towards using the catch-all, which in turn drives us to picking an option, as we saw, of what the bot's truly intending to do. Just a final thing to look at before we build our own flow. Because the catch-all is going to catch every single instance of something that's not understood, we need to just exclude the word help and the word menu from the catch-all. And the reason we do that is because very often customers will come and put help or menu, and they'll expect to get the options right away. So we have a completely distinct flow, a separate flow, which looks out for help or menu and then comes back and just gives us straight away the options that we're looking for. One more flow in here, but I'm going to come back to it in a second. Let's get on with building out our quote first, our quote engine. So what we're going to do here is we're going to look for a new message first, and we're looking for the word quote. Then we'll keep this interaction going by sending a message back. Then we're going to ask a question. We can use the user's name that Facebook gives us. We'll ask if we can take the email address, and we're going to validate it as email, so they'll only be able to give us an email address in response. Next, ask a question again. We'll take a mobile number and we'll validate that one as number. Next here, we're going to ask a question and we're going to say, could I take your annual salary? And then we're going to perform a calculation with FlowXO's number service. Calculate. We're going to take the person's answer to that last question, and we're going to multiply it by 4.5 times, which might be the mortgage that you'd expect somebody to be able to afford based on their earnings. Last thing we'll do in terms of the customer is send a message. Thanks. you could borrow up to, and we'll put our result in there that we've calculated. An agent will be in touch in a few minutes to talk you through the rest of the process. So the clever bit now is that we're actually going to, well, firstly, we're going to go to Google Sheets and we're going to add a row. To new customers, and I can just use the outputs here. So the first thing we want to do is their name, which comes from Facebook. Then we want the answer to the first question, which was their email. Then we want their mobile number, which was the second question. Then we want their salary, which was the last question, and the mortgage amount is the calculation that we did. Final thing I can do here, I'm going to go and use the messaging service. I'm going to send a message to email. I'm going to inform the human agent that there's a new lead. I can give their name and we'll put in the mortgage amount so the agent knows what they're dealing with. So now let's run this flow. We'll turn the flow on. We'll ask for a quote. We've been given a calculation of what we might be able to borrow, and we're told that an agent will be in touch in a few minutes to talk you through the rest of the process. Over in Gmail, here's the new customer's lead, sent to me as the human agent, and now I can reply directly into Messenger. I'm your mortgage advisor. Let's get started on your file. We'll send this over. And you can see the message comes directly into Messenger where the customer was already sitting. So really powerful service there, the messaging service. Really simple example that we've used, but you can imagine that now you can have a two-way conversation between the agent and between the user, the agent and the customer rather, and for any hot leads that come through, you can instantly start to upsell to them, start to talk to them about any extra information that you need. Just a final note that we've also populated that data over in our new customer spreadsheet here as per that workflow. So we've captured the lead and replicated what we'd normally do in a form, but we've done it conversationally, much more engaging. Final thing to note, the messaging service is so powerful that it deserves its own flow, just in case somebody comes to the bot but they instantly want to speak to a human. So we've got a flow here, the in touch flow, which will take a message, I want to speak to a human. It'll ask a question of the person right away. It'll tell them that they're quite sad. Don't worry, I won't take it personally. What would you like the human to talk to a human about? We'll then enact the messaging service again, and then we'll send a message back to the user saying, since this is just general conversation, it's not a hot lead, it's just a general inquiry, a human should be back in 2 to 3 hours. Been great speaking to you. So that's it for the flow that we wanted to build out today. You can see here we have the basis of a really good bot. We have some marketing functions in place, and we're able to track the instance of a new customer, being unsure of their options, and when they first visit, what can they say to the bot? How should they progress? We need to guide them gently into that process, and we need to make sure we respond appropriately when we don't understand their message. So we've covered that. We've looked at data collection, we've looked at emulating whatever forms you've got out there through this conversational messenger interface, and we've looked at configuring human interaction directly through the bot with the messaging service. So this is it, crunch time. I hope you've seen how easy it is to get started, and those next steps have given you a good indication of what you'll build next. Here's what pricing looks like. For only $19 a month, you can build 15 bots or flows and accommodate 2,500 interactions. There's no contract or time period, and you can downgrade to a free plan at any time. Because you've been kind enough to watch today, I'd like to sweeten the deal a little bit. Here are links to all the flows that we've built today, so that you can install these and you can have the bot up and running right away. And to get them all in place, you will need more than the 5 flows that are available in the free edition. So I'll also give you your first month free if you sign up in the next 24 hours. You just have to use the coupon code FREE4416. Don't forget, this video will be online for a short while later, so you can get those links if you need them. Finally, just a few resources to be aware of. There are extensive help docs at support.flowxo.com. There's a lively community at community.flowxo.com. We have a constructive blog at medium.com/flowxo, and we build out other use cases there, so do take a look at that. And watch out for the hashtag #WhatTheBot on social media to get all the latest bot news. Thanks for watching. I've really enjoyed building out that bot with you today. Please get signed up and tell me more about your use case. I'm on live chat now. We'd be delighted to help you get building out straight away. I'll be running this session weekly, so feel free to come and watch again if you like. The core content won't change, but if you have a specific case, perhaps we can build that into the session. A final reminder, if you get onto Twitter and hashtag #WhatTheBot, we'll be sure to give you some retweets there too. Get in touch. I'd love to hear from you. See you all soon.